This video is sponsored by Adorama. What's going on, guys? Aldrin Estacio here with FlytPath.com. It's kind of hard to believe that the DJI Air 2S has actually been out for about 7, almost 8 months now. 8 months. I've been flying for about 8 months because I flew it for a couple weeks before it was actually released. And just to cut to the chase, even though the Mavic 3 has just been released, I think the drone probably of the year would still be this one right here, the DJI Air 2S, because I think it just has an all-in-one package as far as what is available on the market today. We do have a 1-inch sensor, we do have obstacle avoidance, we have active track, we have all of these smart functions, we have a compact size. The build quality is actually really solid, and I think it's just probably one of the most, if not the most, universal drone currently on the market that would not only satisfy somebody that's new to drones, but also satisfy those that have been experienced with either drones or photography or videography. It does have a lot of those specs and the capabilities for you to satisfy both needs. Of course, there are more affordable options like the Mini 2, and if you are more on that commercial side and want that highest quality, then of course now we have the new Mavic 3. So this video, now that the Mavic 3 has been released, and I have gotten a lot of requests down below wanting my opinion on the Air 2S, I just want to make this video just to talk to you about some of the differences between these, because these are the 3 main drones right now. This is the lineup right now from DJI. The Mini 2, Air 2S, and now the higher end Mavic 3. So let's quickly go through the specs of these drones, and also I'll talk to you a little bit more about who I think it's for and what are some of the things that separate each one of these. And before we get into the Air 2S and the comparisons, a quick word from today's sponsor, Adorama. And for those unfamiliar with Adorama, Adorama is one of the most reputable online retail stores that specializes in camera gear, electronics, photography, gaming, musical instruments, and even drones. They have all the latest gear, including this right here, the DJI Mavic 3, and of course they have the Air 2S and the Mini 2. And they actually just posted all of their Black Friday deals early on their website. So if you guys do want to save some money on some of your favorite electronics, make sure you guys use those Adorama links down below in the video description. And now back to the Air 2S. Now when the Air 2S did come out about 7 to 8 months ago, I think everyone was excited about it because of this right here, the 1-inch sensor, something that the Mavic 2 Pro had, and that was the biggest appeal of the Air 2S. We were combining the Mavic 2 Pro with the Air 2 at the time, and we kept that Air 2 frame, that smaller size. Now we have a larger camera, very much like the Mavic 2, except we don't have that adjustable aperture here. This is a fixed 2.8 aperture. At the end of the day, it's really based on your needs and what you are actually going to be flying the drone for, what type of camera resolution specs you might need, which would then of course determine which drone to get for those specific types of use cases. Now, I've said this multiple times in the past, if you are new to drones and you just want to get into this space and you want to have something that's extremely reliable, there's nothing beating the Mini 2. It comes in extremely affordable at $499. Now, if you want to step up from the Mini 2 and you want to get something like this, if you have a little bit more, I would say, drone experience, if you have a little bit more photography, videography experience, you're going to want something like this because it has a little bit more robust of a camera, has a few more options when it comes to video, higher specs, higher resolution, and heavier platform. So if you are in a place where you can be flying that has higher gusts, maybe a little bit more wind, this is something that you'll feel more comfortable in the air versus something like the Mini 2. Now, where does the Mavic 3 sit? I would say, of course, if you have flown something like this and you need, or you maxed out kind of the capabilities of the camera system on these right here, and you have now a need for those higher specs, higher quality, then that's when you would jump up to something like the Mavic 3. But my advice is always to probably start at this level here, the Mini 2, and maybe the Air 2S if you have the budget for it, but work your way up and see if you actually do need those higher specs. Do you find that you're maxing out the camera on these right here and you have a need now to move up to the higher platforms, the bigger drones? With that said, let's jump right into the specs of the drones. Now, the first thing that you'll see, of course, is size and weight. The DJI Mini 2 comes in at 249 grams. Like I said, it's very important. Like I mentioned earlier, the Mavic Air 2S comes in at 595 grams. And then we have the Mavic 3 comes in around 900 grams. Now, when we talk about size, I mean, the Mini, of course, super tiny, but the great thing is, so is the Air 2S. That Air 2S does have a good balance of size and weight, and that's the reason why I think it's still one of the best, if not the best, all-purpose drone currently on the market. And then when comparing the size of the Air 2S with the Mavic 3, of course, you can see a lot bigger difference here as far as size goes. Now, why is size such a big deal? Well, if you are trying to pack light, you're trying to travel with this thing, you want something that's really small, compact, so you're not worried about carrying such heavy or larger gear. Now, when it comes to transmission, which is that connection between the drone and the remote control, which is by far for me the most important thing. All of these drones right here, all good to go because they all work off of OcuSync. And that OcuSync is DJI's transmission system, and these are all rated to go extremely far. The Mini 2 is rated for 10 kilometers, the Air 2S 12 kilometers, and then we have the Mavic 3 rated for 15 kilometers in distance. The next factor we want to talk about is flight time up in the air. Now, these are rated, this one right here, the Air 2S and the Mini 2 are rated for 31 minutes up in the air. With 31 minutes rated, you probably get around that 23, 24, 25 minutes of actual flight time. Now, if you are more on the commercial side and you want a little bit more air time, that's when you jump over to this right here, the Mavic 3, which is rated for about 46 minutes. My hover test, I'm getting about 35, 36 minutes of hover time and about the same during flight time. Now, I did talk about camera sensor size, but of course, what does that really mean? How does the video quality look between the Air 2S versus something that has a smaller camera, the Mini 2, and also compared to something that has a bigger camera, the Mavic 3. Now, of course, it's a lot easier to see some of the differences when they're side by side, but I think the Air 2S just in general does have very high quality video, and not just that, it has some of the video options that a lot of the higher end users will be looking for. And speaking of those options, when we come to picture profiles, the Mini 2 doesn't have any. It just shoots in the standard DJI normal mode. As far as the picture profile goes, there are no options. Now, when it comes to the Air 2S, we do have a couple options. You do have that flat D-Log on the Air 2S, as well as HLG, and of course the standard or normal mode from DJI. You have H.264, H.265. You do have ProRes if you get the Cine version of the Mavic 3. And of course, you also have the D-Log, very similar to what we have here on the Air 2S. I actually do like the D-Log on the Mavic 3 a little bit better. It's a little flatter than the Air 2S, but they both grade really well. So if you did need that option to have that ability to adjust the colors a little bit more in post-processing, that's when you'd want to jump over here with the Air 2S and the Mavic 3. Now, when it comes to video resolution, the great thing about the Mini 2 compared to the Mini 1 is that this one does shoot in 4K. We have a bump up to 5.4K 30 frames a second on the Air 2S, and on the Mavic 3 we have 5.1K 30 frames a second, but we also have 4K at 120 on the Mavic 3. Now, if you're looking at buying a drone that has obstacle avoidance, the Mini 2 does not have any obstacle avoidance. We do have a downward sensor here, which is to really help you with takeoff and landing. Now, with the Air 2S, this one actually does have obstacle avoidance. It does have the intelligent flight modes of active track, spotlight, and this one is actually really, really good compared to some of the other ones because of these additional sensors here on top. If you guys haven't seen my previous video on the tracking on the Air 2S, make sure you check out the link above as well as down below. I had the drone follow me while I was on my bike, and it was actually dodging trees, going up and over and under some light posts. I'll make sure I post that, on here, but make sure you check out those videos on this thing. Now, speaking of those active track and intelligent mode features, the Mavic 3 does not have it yet, but of course from DJI, they did mention that they're going to be coming out with it in January. So the same type of features that we do have on this one right here are going to be on this one just at the moment of release. The Mavic 3 does not have that built into the firmware, but that's going to be coming soon. Now, when it comes to storage, we do not have any internal storage on the Mini 2. We do have the option here, of course, to add your micro SD card to the back. The Air 2S does have 8 gigs internal, as well as you can add the external micro SD. And then when we talk about the Mavic 3, the standard Mavic 3 has an 8 gig internal as well. Also, you can add in an SD card in the back. And if you jump up to the Cine version, the one that shoots ProRes, it does come with a 1 terabyte SSD drive on the inside in order for you to write ProRes to that drive. The one thing I do like that DJI did with all of these drones is that they are all super quiet up in the air. Now the Mini 2, I think of course is probably still the quietest of these three right here, but even the Mavic 3, just everything with the low noise propellers, how they've adjusted startup noise or startup speed to kind of bring down the tone a little bit. The one thing I do like about the Air 2S, even compared to the new Mavic 3, is the build quality. The drone feels nice and tightly packed and solid up in the air and in your hands. Now, I think the Mavic 3 is definitely weighted in that middle section. They did go thinner on the arms. It does feel a little bit more fragile than something like the Mavic 2 Pro. Like I mentioned, I think the Mavic 3 is really like a finesse cinematic drone. The Air 2S, I believe, is a good, solid, all-purpose one. Then, of course, you have here is that real compact Mini 2. And there it is, guys. Just wanted to go through with you my thoughts, all the specs that I think are most important that you're going to want to know when you're comparing these drones right here, the Mini 2, the Air 2S, and the Mavic 3. I, of course, have tons of in-depth videos on all these drones right here. I'll make sure the playlist is above as well as down below in the video description. And with that said, I don't want to also pass up an opportunity to talk to you about these right here, which are my flight case bags designed for the Mini, as well as the Air 2S and the Air 2. I created these cases right here to be just that, nice, small, well padded, has my logo here on the front, and easy for you to just kind of either carry on with a carabiner, hook it up to your belt, toss it into your backpack, and know that you have something that's protecting your drones while you're in transit. And if you guys have an interest in me making one for the Mavic 3, and it'll probably fit, of course, the Mavic 2 Pro, let me know in the comment section down below. Links to these cases are gonna be down below in the video description. And if you guys do pick one up this month, I do have a Black Flight Day sale. Free shipping. Make sure you guys use that code down below at checkout. And huge thanks again to our sponsor of this video, Adorama. If you guys are looking at picking up one of these drones or looking at other camera gear, lighting equipment, make sure you guys use those links from Adorama down below in the video description. As always, if you guys got some value from this video, a big like would be much appreciated. And also don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos. If you guys want to see more videos on the Air 2S, Mini, or the Mavic 3, I have all of those linked down below in the video description. This is Adorama with FlytPath.com. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.